Trump started a war. Now he's asking everyone else to come clean it up. And they're saying no. Japan? No. Australia? No. Britain sent 2 ships, but only after the danger passed, and Trump was not impressed. 1/5 of the world's oil bottled up, prices through the roof, allies nowhere to be found. Turns out America first also means America alone. Three weeks into the US-Israeli war on Iran and the Strait of Hormuz, the narrow waterway through which 20% of the world's oil flows remains effectively shut. 1/5 of the planet's energy bottled up. Oil has crossed $106 a barrel, up roughly 45% since the war began on February 28th. And on March 15th, President Donald Trump decided he had waited long enough.
We are demanding that these countries come in and protect their own territory because it is their territory. It's a place from which they get their energy. And they should come and they should help us protect it. You could make the case that maybe we shouldn't even be there at all because we don't need it. We have a lot of oil. We're the #1 producer anywhere in the world times 2. By double, at least double. Now I think it's much higher than that. But we do it. It's almost like we do it for habit. But we also do it for some very good allies that we have.
Trump said his administration had already been in contact with 7 nations. He wouldn't name them. But over the weekend, he had been less subtle, posting publicly that he expected China, France, Japan, South Korea, and Britain to step up and send warships. His argument was straightforward. If you depend on this waterway, you should help guard it. He took that argument further in a rare 8-minute phone call with the Financial Times on Sunday.
If there's no response, or if it's a negative response, I think it will be very bad for the future of NATO. I've long said that NATO is a one-way street.
Then came the warning aimed directly at Beijing.
China, as an example, gets about 90% of its oil from the Hormuz Strait. And nice to have other countries police that with us. And we'll help. We work militarily. As far as I'm concerned, we've essentially defeated Iran.
Trump told the Financial Times he expects China to commit before he travels to Beijing for his summit with President Xi Jinping, scheduled for the end of March. He's even dangled the possibility of pulling back from that trip entirely. Trump's demand landed, but the answers so far have not been what he was looking for. Japan, which imports 95% of its oil from the Middle East, said Monday it has no plans to send naval vessels anywhere near the strait. Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi, a known Trump ally, addressed Parliament directly.
As we have not yet received any such requests, it is difficult for us to respond to hypothetical matters. The Japanese government is currently examining what necessary measures should be taken. Of course, this will be within the Japanese legal framework, but we are proceeding with consideration as to how we can protect the lives of Japanese vessels and their crews.
Japan's position is not simply political caution. Its post-war constitution places hard limits on overseas military operations, especially combat missions against state actors. Tokyo's self-defense forces have conducted anti-piracy patrols near the Middle East before, but those were policing missions. What Trump is describing is something entirely different. Takaichi is expected to travel to Washington this week, and the conflict in Iran is at the top of the agenda. Australia, another key US security partner in the Indo-Pacific, was equally firm. Cabinet Minister Catherine King told state broadcaster ABC on Monday that Australia had not been asked to contribute and was not planning to send ships.
We know how incredibly important that is, but that's not something that we've been asked or that we're contributing to.
Britain's response drew some of Trump's sharpest words. After speaking with Prime Minister Keir Starmer on Sunday, Trump told the Financial Times he was not impressed.
The UK might be considered the #1 ally, the longest serving, etc. And when I asked for them to come, they didn't want to come. And as soon as we basically wiped out the danger capacity from Iran, they said, oh well, we'll send 2 ships, And I said, we need these ships before we win, not after we win.
European Union foreign ministers were meeting Monday to discuss reinforcing a small existing naval presence in the Middle East, but diplomats said no decision was expected on extending operations to the Strait of Hormuz specifically. And on the question of when this ends, US officials were speaking with optimism over the weekend, predicting the war wraps up within weeks, and that oil prices would follow it down. But with Brent crude still trading above $104 Monday morning, and with Iran vowing to hold the line for as long as it takes, that prediction remains exactly that.
We are talking to other countries about working with us for the policing of the strait. And I think we're getting good response. If we do, that's great, and if we don't, that's great too.
Whether those responses translate into warships in the water is the question that will define the next chapter of this war. A new and potentially dangerous tactic is emerging in the waters of the Persian Gulf, as experts warn that Iran may be deploying explosive drone boats disguised as ordinary fishing vessels in the strategically vital Strait of Hormuz. The warning comes from Cameron Chell, chief executive of the drone technology firm Dragonfly, who says the tactic signals a shift toward hybrid maritime warfare in one of the world's most important shipping corridors. Chell's comments followed confirmation from United Kingdom Maritime Trade Operations that a Marshall Islands flagged oil tanker was struck on March 1st by an unmanned surface vehicle, or USV, north of Muscat.
UKMTO has received confirmation that the vessel was attacked by an uncrewed surface vehicle, USV, and crew has been evacuated to shore.
Further incidents have also been reported. According to accounts cited by Reuters, 2 additional oil tankers were struck on March 11th by remote-controlled explosive boats in the Gulf. The attacks are believed to have occurred as Iran intensified maritime pressure following the launch of Operation Epic Fury on February 28th. Chell warned that the use of so-called suicide skiffs represents a growing asymmetric threat in the narrow waterway. At its tightest point, the Strait of Hormuz is only about 21 miles wide, making it one of the most vulnerable maritime choke points in the world.
The Iranians probably have use of radio remote control, line of sight, frequency hopping, or encrypted radio communication between the skiffs and the Hormuz shoreline. These can be jammed and tracked, but when there's 50 of these boats, it's hard to try to find them all along this shoreline or to find a 20-foot wooden fishing boat that is laden with explosives. They can have one person controlling a swarm of 10 boats.
Some systems could also operate with a level of autonomy if pre-programmed before launch. In such a scenario, the boats would be directed to ram into their targets before detonating. Reports cited by Reuters indicate that at least 6 vessels have been attacked across the Gulf and the Strait of Hormuz in recent weeks. Sources also suggested that Iran had deployed around a dozen naval mines, further complicating navigation through the already sensitive waterway. Amid the rising threat, Scott Bessent, the US Treasury Secretary, told Sky News that the United States Navy could escort commercial vessels through the strait when it is militarily feasible, potentially working alongside an international coalition. Meanwhile, John Healey, the United Kingdom's Defence Secretary, said discussions were underway with European partners about the security implications for global trade and energy markets. Chell, however, questioned whether existing defensive systems are fully prepared to counter the threat posed by swarms of small explosive boats.
The drone defense fleets that the US Navy would not have been set up to take these suicide skiffs out. The US would be using manned aircraft in order to take them out, which are fantastic at taking out a large target, but inefficient in taking out 50 boats at one time that are an average of 25 or 30 feet in size, laden with explosives. Given the strait's geography, it would require patrolling by many aircraft and would require pervasive surveillance over the area. a rapid response to any activity that's happening.
As Iran's Supreme Leader Mojtaba Khamenei vowed to keep the strait closed as leverage against the US and Israel, oil prices continue to surge, with Shell also highlighting the geographic advantage Iran holds. Inexpensive and relatively simple to construct, the vessels could potentially be deployed in large numbers while remaining difficult to detect among legitimate fishing traffic.